Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. This episode of Word Balloon is brought to you by AlexRossArt.com. Alex is a brand new graphic novel coming out from Marvel and Abrams Books. Fantastic Four, Full Circle. It comes out September 6th. It's a rainy night in Manhattan, and not a creature is stirring except for the Thing, Ben Grimm. When an intruder suddenly appears inside the Baxter Building, the Fantastic Four find themselves surrounded by a swarm of invading parasites. These carrion creatures, composed of negative energy, come to Earth using a human host as a delivery system. But for what purpose? And who is behind this untimely invasion? The Fantastic Four have no choice but to journey to the Negative Zone, an alien universe comprised entirely of antimatter, risking not just their own lives, but the fate of the cosmos. Fantastic Four, Full Circle is the first long-form work written and illustrated by acclaimed artist Alex Ross, who revisits a classic Lee Kirby story from the 60s and introduces the storyline for a new generation of readers. Bold, vivid colors, his trademark visual storytelling, Ross takes Marvel's first team of superheroes to places only he can illustrate. The book also features a special poster jacket with the front flap unfolding to reveal an all-new, fully painted origin story of the Fantastic Four. Again, Fantastic Four, Full Circle, out September 6th. For more details, go to AlexRossArt.com. Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. I'm always happy to welcome my friend Phillip Kennedy Johnson back to Word Balloon. Great to see you, buddy.
John Suntress. It's always good to see you, sir.
I'm very excited. I was thrilled about the announcements that were made at New York Comic Con. There's a new direction for Action Comics in particular, and it's all like it's just like my childhood. The Superman family is coming back to action in a slightly different way with slightly different characters. But
I know, it's cool, right? I love those old the 80-page giants and all that. Those are some of my first comics, and it's it's a similar thing. It's not 80 pages, but it is oversized. It's 40 pages of art now, and so there's been a lot of questions regarding the format. It is a new format, so it's going to be 20-page leads with me and with Rafa Sandoval on art, and then there are going to be 2 10-pagers in each one as well to kind of continue to flesh out the rest of the super family, starting with Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks, and then Leah Williams and Marguerite Savage. And it's, oh my God, I can't wait for people to see what's coming. But yeah, I just love the idea that we get to explore, like really kind of celebrate all the parts of Superman's mythology that we kind of had to leave behind during Warworld Saga. Yeah, this is our big chance to really get back to that and show the big bright metropolis that everyone wants to see, and just kind of revel in all the things that people know as Superman.
That's great, man. No, and again, well done on Warworld. What a great story, and so I mean, in a lot of ways, it reminded me when Jason Aaron was doing Thor, and some of the different areas that he went to in that story, and then just expanding on Thor in interesting ways. And it's so great because I mean, we've talked about it before. It's great to put Superman in space because the odds are, I think, a lot tougher. There are more foes that are equal to him, and certainly the new Mongol is a lot more, scarier because he really, I mean, killed his dad to usurp the throne essentially and get done what his dad could never do. And it was a great saga.
And his mom too, in a way. We saw in that annual how that all ended up too. But I wanted them to be really scary and just different from all the other guys that kind of look similar as far as their silhouette. People like Darkseid and Thanos and Mongol get kind of compared to each other just because they look, they're just these big bulky dudes, but they should be so different. There's nothing in common really, and I wanted to make that more and more clear.
Well, and again, they're more formidable. I mean, old Mongol, obviously. We all remember and adore the man who had everything, the great Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons story.
Yeah,
where really, I mean, really got under Superman's skin. And I mean, you really the safety was off. I always love when heroes get to that scary point and the safety is off. And I mean, I remember during Civil War when Peter went to prison and challenged the Kingpin when he found out that the Kingpin tried to kill Aunt May.
Right.
And showed up, no mask, and just beat the shit out of the Kingpin. Or when Doc Ock was Spider-Man and he smashed the tarantula's jaw, and Doc Ock is like, holy shit, he was holding back all this time. And it's like, cool, they just realize how fucking powerful they are. And same thing with Superman, man. And of course, on World, he's depowered, and again, showed how important the hero within is just as important as the man with the cape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I've been saying it, forgive me, anyone who, has heard me say this recently, but the power should only be there to illustrate how incorruptible he is. It can't just be a dust up the whole time, but we are going to see, I say that, and there is going to be a pretty epic fight coming up in issues 1048 and 1049, which I'm really looking forward to fans seeing. I had a great hang, and I was in the UK recently for like 6 weeks or something.
Wow.
And hung out with some friends while I was there. And one of them, I had a conversation with my friend Alfie, who's another podcaster. And he knows a lot about anime and manga and stuff that I frankly don't know as much about. And we talked a lot about that and about how just fight scenes in manga are quite different. And there's one aspect in particular that I thought was interesting, how there tends to be like in a comic, there's Alfie talked about the wind up and then the punch, and that you always see in the comics. But when in manga, I guess there's like and as soon as he said it, I knew exactly what he was talking about. I do know this much, and it translates to anime as well, where there's the wind up, and then there's this, you see the punch coming, and they really make a big deal out of it, and then the strike. Now, but that aside, though, I'm getting too much into the weeds here. But there's he talked about the creativity of the fight scenes and how he wanted to see more of that from Superman, and that's kind of something I've been thinking about as well. How I don't want to just see, especially now, because we've just overpowered Superman like crazy on Warworld by the end, which is really the version of him I want to see. I love the All-Star Superman, the Superman from the old days where he just he just flies and he's going back in time decades just because he wants to. He can just do like literally whatever he wants.
Pushing planets.
That's the stuff I want to see, So now that we got him back to that, I don't want to see just guys punching each other. I want to see a little more creativity. So we're going to start to explore. I'm going to try to stretch out a little bit more and see what, now that Superman is as powerful as he's ever been, I want to see what he can really do. That's great. Everyone's wishing us well and saying hello and everything, but there's already just a ton of questions. So I want to get to some of these. RP Chatham says, what plans do you have to make Metropolis more like the city of tomorrow that it's supposed to be like, similar to how you rebirthed Warworld as a new and fresh take? Can we expect other classic rogues? Yeah, okay. There's a lot of questions in there. So yeah, the classic rogue things, yes. So Metallo first. I really like that we had the opportunity to dig deep into Mongol the way that a lot of writers don't have the space to do, because we've been on Warworld for a bit, and we got. How many issues was it, Phillip? How many issues was it total? If you count Warworld Rising, if you go back to the very beginning, the 2-issue arc with Phil Hester, in which Mongol kind of gets teased, that was action. Let's see, Superman 29 and Action 1029, and then it ends in Warworld Apocalypse, which was 2 issues in 1, which was gonna be 1048. So that's what 20 issues plus 21 with the Superman plus 2 annuals, and plus a couple others tied in. So roughly 24 or so issues. That's gonna be a nice omnibus when I know. When it's collected, man. Yeah, I'm so stoked they let me do all that and get to really. At some point, we were talking about what to do with the annual, with this most recent annual. I was like, well, it's got to be the Mongol backstory. We haven't seen Mongol's childhood, which seems crazy. But we actually do need it. We got to see, more of his backstory and all that. And we got to do that awesome thing with Cy Spurrier where we show both of their childhoods. So yeah, right around 24 issues. And when my editor reached out, like, hey, so what all needs to go in this thing? And I gave him the list, and I was like, it's like, what, 700 pages? Like, this is getting to be a lot. Like, I hope they let me get away with this. But because there's backups too, like a lot of those backups time all this stuff as well. Yes. So it's going to be a nice fat book. I'm really excited about it. That's great, man. Anyway, so, I'm getting off track. So let's see. What did RP Chatham ask again? Well, also Metropolis being the city of tomorrow.
Is there an
Right.
opportunity here to really get into Metropolis in a different
Yeah.
way,
Well, if
or how
you
you want to honor it? Yeah.
if for the people who have been, I've been seeing people online say they're going back to reread the whole thing, which is awesome to hear. Towards the very beginning of Warworld Rising, which was, I think, 1030 was the first one technically. There was it shows Lois writing a book about Krypton, and she's in the she's in the Kandor library doing research, and she talks about, you see this awesome picture of the library that Danielson Perry did, and it's just so beautiful. Like it's like a Japanese water garden from the future. Like imagine like a water garden like in like Krypton, right? And like just sunlight everywhere, and it's like this unbelievable landscape, but it's a library. And I love that idea. I love the idea of schools and libraries being treated like temples or gardens, like a place where learning is of paramount importance and just is
Sacred
revered.
almost. Yeah.
Exactly, sacred place.
I'm with you, man. Absolutely.
And in that piece, Lois talks about how people talk about Krypton like it's this like there's so much more advanced, but really it was just much older. And they'd already been through a lot of the struggles that we're going through now. They've already been through their industrial revolution and their the water wars and the different resource issues that we're going through, different civil wars and everything else. And they've gotten to a place where everyone, no matter what their profession is, they are all artists, and it's all where language and music and math are all kind of the same thing. They all like aesthetic and function in science are all like interwoven in a way that they're not here as often. And I mean, Daniel's images of that library just really sold that idea for me. And now Superman has come back to Earth from Warworld and is struck by how fast everything kind of went to shit here. And he's been gone for a little bit, and he returns to the world that frankly we are living in, and a thought that I think we've all kind of asked ourselves, like, man, things got bad real fast. I mean, it's something that I thought anyway. Yeah. Where like I'm not talking about COVID in the book really, but we've got COVID, we got the Ukraine thing, we got like all these different things that kind of, seem to kind of creep up on us kind of quick. Yeah. And he comes back, and even though Superman has always trusted us to course correct ourselves, to always kind of find the right path and find our way, and he's never seen himself as our morality police, or didn't want to control what we do with our decisions. But before he left, John said something like, in Tom's book, John said something like, why don't you do more? And he Superman has his own way, but when he comes back from Warworld, he's like, damn, he's right. Like, this is like, now we are actually at a critical juncture on Earth, and things are actually kind of critical right now. And now we are going to do more. And so he kind of leads his whole family, the modern day House of El, with John, Connor, Kara, the super twins, as people are calling them, the kids from Warworld who are now kind of in it. There you go. There's the picture. Everyone, they're all here, and he's like, they need our help. And the Irons family, above all, actually, the Irons family is going to be like the first family of Metropolis, kind of leading the way as far as like all the tech that we've seen them develop through the Warworld saga, when Natasha was trying to kind of save everything in the Star Forges, and his dad, her Uncle John helped her and all that. Now these guys are now uniquely qualified as far as tech, like alien tech specifically, and Genesis, and how that mineral can be used as a power source, and these different technologies that we found in Warworld and things from Krypton, like they're actually going to really triple down and make Metropolis into a shining beacon of technology and unity that is going to show the world that we're the ones capable of miracles, not just them.
Very interesting. Our buddy Zach wants to know, will there be a crossover between Action and Adventures and Superman, or will each do their own thing and then just reference each other as needed?
Now, I know that a lot of people have different feelings about this. I mean, the Triangle era is broadly beloved. Like, everyone loves Triangle.
Of course, yeah.
We did not, though, want to do the thing where the series goes, one to the next, where like you have to
Right.
buy every single book to see what's happening at all.
Certainly.
I don't want people who just subscribe to Action to be screwed if they don't get the other two as well, and vice versa for the other books. But I do love how interwoven those books were. And that is kind of the mission statement going forward, or one of them anyway, where they're all going to be a real collection of stories that do inform each other and do go hand in hand. I'm in a chat room with Josh and Tom every day about how, about what to do, about how how is this going to pay off in this other book, and like little things that we can do to make those who do buy all the books feel like they're getting a more complete story, like they're really rewarded for doing that, even though anyone could pick up just one and love it and not feel like they're missing anything. That's what we want. We want something that is as tied together and coherent and just as fan first as the Triangle era was, but without putting that gun to their head to make them buy every book.
Oh no, absolutely. Well, and the other great thing is again to incorporate all the members of the Superman family, as it were. It's great. During New 50, or I got to remember my continuity. So it was during New 52. There was this thought of, well, Superman and Supergirl aren't getting along, and Connor and Superman aren't getting along, and it's like, no, man, they're a family, and you're really missing an opportunity for them all to shine, not only to support Superman, but tell their own stories as well. And that's why this image meant so much to me, to see that, yeah, there's Connor, there's John, of course there's John, there's God, I'm forgetting Steele's daughter's name, her first name.
Oh, his niece, that's Natasha Irons.
Oh, excuse me, that's his niece, Natasha. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's Kara, the twins, obviously. No, this is great. And again, it's a real opportunity to get into more in-depth stories. But like, who else could he talk to but these other Kryptonians and these other members of his extended family and stuff? And it's like, that's what you want, man. That's the human side of the story. And of course, Lois. And it's great that, we're going to get back to Lois's book and everything. And I so agree with you about libraries and the idea of, futuristic libraries, but also that kind of old, honorable thing. I mean, God, especially, it as well as I do, especially having kids and everything. We're all really worried about libraries, the future of libraries. We know how important they were to us as growing up and stuff. But I honestly, with books being online and stuff, it's like the library can still be a very important place. And I know here in Chicago and the suburbs with money around Chicago are investing in the library and making them so much more than just the shelves of books that they were when we were growing up. But they are also growing and evolving. So that's great to show that kind of importance.
Thank God, man. I was just up at West Point, and they have this really beautiful library there. And my friend, the guy, a former roommate of mine, he's up there. He's a musician there, but he's also teaching some courses.
Okay.
And he says, we were walking out, and he's like, man, the concept of a library just wouldn't fly today. Like he meant like if it was a new thing. And
the basic library, sure.
Yeah, I've never really thought about the idea of like life without libraries. Like it's, I mean, when I was growing up, for a while I was in Kentucky, in a very small town, and there was a very modest library that was honestly not super duper well stocked, but I mean, it was just this amazing place that I could go where it was just, there's books everywhere, and like yeah, I just can't imagine not having that. As modest as it was, without it, I mean, I would have been so screwed.
Well, pre-internet, and when I say pre-internet, I mean the omnipresence of AOL and everything else that exploded in the 90s. Like LexisNexis was magic back in the 80s when you would research something. And even before that, God, I mean, I'd go through microfilm and bound
microfilm, dude. Yeah,
and bound copies of magazines and stuff, and read old articles.
Right.
And again, it's like, well, now online it's easier to obtain some information, but that's why the libraries need to evolve and be more important things. So yeah, a little learning tangent, a little PSA for the importance of libraries, everybody. But
yeah, totally. Yeah. Schools and libraries.
It's worth it. Yeah,
those are sacred places.
Yeah, Magic K wants to know: will you collaborate with Jeff Johns in the near future?
Huh. That's an interesting question. Jeff and I have only interacted online a little bit, and he was very kind to me, and we spoke just a little bit, and I've never actually met him.
Okay.
After Richard Donner passed, I posted something about him and what his films meant to me, primarily Superman, obviously. But he saw the post, and I guess he'd been reading Superman, and he reached out and said he was really nice. I don't. I mean, honestly, it depends on what you mean by collaborate. I don't see Jeff Johns ever co-writing with anyone. He's just not in that place where he has to.
It's
Like
been a
Jeff.
long time. Yeah,
Yeah, Jeff's going to make his own stories, and
sure.
I mean, if who knows, man? I mean, I'm sure maybe there's going to be an event someday where we both have books that tie in some way, but probably not in the way that you mean, Magic. Okay.
Fair enough. Absolutely.
Just
Fran,
because Jeff's not in that place in his career anymore.
No, I hear you, man. Good Lord. I saw him at Fan Expo in Chicago in late July, and I'm so glad because it's the first time I've seen him face to face in years. And other than like us zooming and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, obviously busy with Stargirl, has a few other projects in the hopper, is still writing comics and stuff, not only for DC, but doing creator owned stuff too.
Actually, that's a good point. My mind went to comics. I mean, if you mean like collaborate, like, I guess there's a scenario in which I could have a place on a show that he's somehow involved in. But I mean, that'd be awesome. He's written a lot of great stuff.
Well, and also both of you put your mark on Superman in such great ways. I'm glad that he
Thanks.
mentioned that he was reading what you were doing and likes it because, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. Like, and as you say, it was right after Infinite Crisis that he and Kurt Busiek did a 6-issue arc when Clark was still depowered.
Yeah.
And just kind of getting used to, trying to make something happen while he didn't have the powers and everything because of what happened to him in Infinite Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Fran Truth wants to know during your introductory issues, it appeared like Otho Ra was a few years older than Osul Ra. However, now they're being billed as twins. Was that always intended?
No, that was not intended. So forgive me if I'm breaking anybody's headcanon. So in my in my headcanon, I envisioned Otho Ra as being a little bit older. Like they're like Irish twins where she's just like maybe a year older, right? Or a year or two older. But I never expressly said that though. I never said that she was like she was always depicted as a little bit bigger. And in my mind, I came to think of her as a little bit older. And now people have started to call like in like behind the scenes, like in DC or wherever, or online too, people are starting to call them the super twins. And I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just kind of thinking like, does she have to be older? Maybe they could be the same age. Like I mean, she's taller, and I kind of like that. I like him being small. I like Osul Ra being a little bit smaller, and both of them being kind of scampy in the way that, like, she kind of bosses him around a little bit. She's a little more aggressive. And he's a little more fun, and she's a little more protective and aggressive. But he brings out this really fun side of her too that I can't wait to show people. It's really important to me. So anyway, to answer your question, I haven't really decided. People keep calling them the super twins, and I kind of like it. So I'm inclined to, unlike a lot of writers, I kind of don't mind when fans sort of steer things. Not that I'm not letting anyone boss me around. Like people do like reach out online a lot and demand stuff. But I mean, I sometimes when people say, just when I see people talk about something they love, or they nerd out about something, I kind of latch onto that. I'm like, that's really awesome. I love seeing that kind of thing. And sometimes that has steered some decisions that I've made in the comics. So I am leaning towards making them twins, but I don't know yet.
Well, Caesar wants to expand on where they are in their ages and everything. It also puts out Thaula as well as Osul Ra and Otho Ra. So like, how old is everybody?
I have not yet written in stone how old they are. Well, but I envision them as being about 11.
Okay.
So basically, one of the reasons that Superman has latched onto them, and vice versa, but one of the reasons that Superman has become so attached to them is that when he first got to Warworld, they were roughly the same age as the years that he lost with John after John was taken by Jor-El and all that. and he's about to, like, he's been, beaten almost to death, and he's thrown in the dungeon with the Philosians, and he's just like delirious, just about to lose consciousness. And the kids have grown up their whole life on Warworld, and they're being very abusive, and was like, oh, you're nobody, you're nothing, blah blah blah, we're tough. And Superman, is not shaken. He just gives them nothing but kindness, and is like, what your name's? My name's Clark. And he talks about his own son, and he says he's about your age, because in his mind he's about to pass out, and he still sees John as the little boy that he was. He's like, in this moment, he's forgotten, like, oh yeah, he's been aged up and all that. He's seeing his son the age he's used to. And that's kind of the first little hint that, there's this connection that he's lost and he's trying to regain. So the rest of the time on Warworld, he is unnaturally protective of them. Well, unnaturally is the wrong word, but is just super paternal towards those kids.
Understood. Yes.
And they kind of feel it. And over time, they become less abusive and finally kind of come around. And now they're all about like truth and justice. They're all about Superman, and they identify as his kids. So now it's kind of their way, and Lois is too, as we saw in 1047. They're kind of up on Sunrise Point, making out. And Superman's like, she's like, what are they doing? He's like, they're playing with Tinker Toys. They're just talking about what they've lost and like how she, it's nice to have them in the house. And you just kind of get the sense they're kind of filling this void that they had in their lives. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone thought, especially the way you guys set it up and everything, that this could be a one-way mission. And as much as he's like, I'll be back, it's like, maybe not. And of course, right. We know, but it's good that the characters have that kind of tension and everything. And also, again, I mean, they're here, I'll get poetic. Their love will span, the cosmos and the light years between them. And, he was determined to come back to her. And yeah, man, hey, they deserve a little happiness and a little moment. We'll see what new tensions the stories bring as the months ensue. Now that he's back,
that's definitely coming. I really like that. I want all the characters to feel distinct. I want them all to have their own personality, not just be the blonde one, the dark-haired one, the one from China, the one from whatever, the little kids. I want them all to have their own. Like I try to keep in mind where they all come from as characters, what they want, what they're afraid of, how they see each other. And I'm really interested in how John and the twins would see each other. And like John knowing that they lost those years together, and then they come back, and now there's these kids here that, John's not the kind of guy to ever be like lame towards little kids, but like I am interested to see that dynamic play out though. And I want to show that to readers too. I want to see Connor, who's not really his son, kind of wants to be, has a totally different attitude than John. Like he's very different on his face, just a very different kind of person, trying to figure out where he comes from and everything about, like, his powers are different. Kara is the only real Kryptonian of the group, in my opinion, as far as her culture, like where she, what makes her who she is.
Yes.
Oh man, that's just such a cool crew. I just can't wait to see them interact more. And I mean, I wish I could show you the stuff I've got already written. It's just, it just excites me,
Yeah. Well, that's beyond the obstacles that a villain will present and stuff. There's real fertile opportunities here to expand on the relationships. And John and Kara and Connor will have new dynamics to their relationships, to the twins, to Clark being back, all of that. And really, I'm so glad that Connor is part of the mix as well. I like John a lot. I love John. John's an amazing character. And what Tom has been doing with John is amazing. And it's fantastic for the story. And I think you've all alleviated those concerns when John's age was accelerated during the Bendis run. And that, you guys are showing how important that father-son thing is, even now as John is a young man, as opposed to being a tweener when he first was taken away by Jor-El and everything. So
yeah, the kids give us an opportunity to see Clark and Lois as parents again.
Right.
That was poorly stated, because they're still parents and John's still around, and they haven't lost him.
Yeah, but dealing with kids.
To see them parents to like small kids making the kind of same dumb mistakes that little kids make. And where John is at an age now where he's kind of looking out for himself, and like his dad's still there for him and his mom too, but it's not like, like the age when he was still like accidentally setting fire to cats and all that. It's that was a fun age, like I wanted to see more of that. And so when people are asking, since I got the gig, every single day I hear stuff about Agent and John back down. Yeah. And I couldn't say, like, we kind of are, but not the same. Like, we're not going backwards, we're going forwards. And now we have these kids that show them as parents again, but in a different way. And like, we still get to see them be awesome parents like they were, and we're gonna have all these fun moments. But we also get to see this underlying, like, not sadness exactly, but kind of like John is still there, but they did lose something. So it just makes it all kind of interesting.
No, and again, a lot of fertile territory to kind of go through. So Emmanuel wants to know if Rafa Sandoval is leaving the Black Adam maxi that Chris Priest is doing for your Action Comics run. Did I rewrite that Mike Perkins is going to be drawing once you get into past 1050?
No, Mike Perkins is holding court right now on 1048 and 1049, Action 1048, 1049, and he's also writing part of the 1050 blockbuster that's about to hit in December. So yeah, Perkins he's taking these next two. There's an issue that's about to drop, 1048 and then 1049. Those are both Mike, and then those threads lead into his chapter in 1050.
I see.
That's Perkins's chapter in the story, and then after that, Rafa is going to be the guy for like the foreseeable future.
Great.
And I know that fans have been like, we've been spoiled with a lot of really amazing art, like some of the best people in DC, best people in comics, the best people to ever do it. But I do understand that there have been a lot of changes between artists, and I get the frustration. Like, I know you want everything to look the same throughout. I totally get it. I'm the same way. I am super grateful that we've gotten as many amazing people as we've gotten, and with people like Riccardo Federici and like Mike Perkins and
Hester to kick it off and everything. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, totally. No, all these guys have been. Will Conrad did amazing work for us.
Conrad, absolutely love Will.
That guy is so unbelievably good.
Really? I didn't know he was fast.
I need 5 pages in 3 days. He just, like, everything he sends in looks so good.
That's so great.
I cannot speak highly enough of Will Conrad. Miguel Mendonca and like Daniel Samperi, just a murderer's row of artists. But I want fans to know that starting in January is Rafa. Like, it's gonna be just him for the foreseeable future. Regarding Black Adam, I don't actually know how that all went down. I don't know if he was already finished with what he was doing. But I know that Rafa's working with me now. I don't know what issue. I don't know what issues are finished of Black Adam. So I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer.
No worries. Emmanuel says in interviews, Josh Williamson has said the Superman titles will be a classic pulp stories. So how is your action run different than Josh's Superman run?
I mean, Josh and I just are super different writers. Josh, if I had to sum it up, I guess I would say that I suspect Josh's Superman series is going to feel a lot like the animated series, kind of in the tone of it. No, I should not speak for Josh that way, but Josh has this really fun, just bombastic, exciting, just like, I don't know, man. It's just Josh writes such fun superhero books. I think the Superman title is going to feel so like the stuff I've read of Josh's so far. It's just like peak Josh Williamson. And it's very Lex centric. Lex is in mine as well, but it's different. And mine is the way I described it to somebody. I kind of laughed that, like, when I first found out that Tom, Josh, and I were all writing pieces of Action 1050, I just literally laughed out loud because we're all so different. We worked a lot together to make it feel like one story, and it's all very homogenized and like one Superman story. But I described the three of us. I made a joke about turning from one page to the next, and one page is Josh, and it's like, comics are super fun, and turns a page and it's Tom Taylor, and it's like, comics are super cool, and then you turn a page again, and it's like, comics reveal this dark hidden truth below everything, and it's like super dark and scary. It's My approach is kind of twofold in that I'm definitely kind of trying to redefine Metropolis as a city of tomorrow in a way that has not really been done, not in this way. With introducing new technology, putting the Irons family to the fore, having the entire super family on the board in this unified way with the new uniforms that are literally uniform, like the jackets and everything that shows they are like a team in a way they haven't been before.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I'm also going to be doing to different classic villains, or iconic villains at least, what we did with Mongol, like getting really deep into the weeds with them and finding out who they are at their core and making them like a legit threat to Superman of all people. We're going to see Metallo that can actually hang with Superman, and we're going to see why he is the way he is, like what made him this way. This kid who, found a gun when he shouldn't have, and over the course of his life just slowly became that gun until now he is this thing, like this whole thing that shaped his life and made him into this unbelievably powerful force that we've never seen before. It's a kind of a tone that is not a Josh Williamson kind of thing, so they're just two very different voices. We have very consistent ideas of who Superman is, but we just write comics very differently. So I think fans of mine will like action, fans of Joshua will like Superman, and hopefully readers will, pick up all the Superman books and see how they tie together the way the Triangle books did.
Andrew wanted to know, given that the 30th anniversary for both Connor and John Henry, obviously coming up, and I know Jurgens has his big Doomsday anniversary thing as well. Do you have any specific plans of celebrating the anniversary? It's obviously we're seeing with John's niece that her story is going to continue, but yeah, how big of a part is John playing in all this? John Henry
Irons is playing a big part of this book. As far as the 30th anniversary thing, I don't want to talk about that too much because there's some cool stuff coming up that I don't want to spoil, and I totally will. So I'm going to leave that alone. But John Henry Irons and Natasha Irons are, well, I mean, I'm not okay. So people who read 1047 saw Superman announce the Global Energy Research Institute that they're going to build in Metropolis. That's going to be the new gold standard for energy technology and research in the world. That is an Irons family endeavor. Like that's like Steelworks. We saw a bit of Steelworks in the backups in the back part of Warworld Saga, and now Steelworks is going to be a much bigger deal than it's been. They're going to be superheroes, but they're also going to be kind of like world leaders in a way, and the way that they kind of help reshape Metropolis. In a way, Superman kind of sees his mission as being to protect the thing that the Irons family is building. He needs them to make Metropolis what they want to make it, but he needs his family to help to keep Metropolis as safe as it should be while this is all happening, because he understands the enemies that we're going to have. So yeah, all the guys from that whole Reign of the Superman thing are going to be, well, not all, but John and Natasha and Connor and all that, they're going to be very much on the board.
Very good. Lewis wants to know your headcanon for Lex and Clark's past. Do you like the idea that Clark and Lex used to be friends, like in TV Smallville, or of course pre-Crisis as well, or in Mark Waid's Birthright? So yeah, where is the Clark and Lex relationship?
Do I like it? No,
what is your headcanon as far as where that's the real question. And again, you can. I want to know if you like it or not, but I wanted to characterize the question.
Yeah, one time in a a live panel, I heard Scott Snyder say that he could never square the circle with Batman having Robin around. Like the idea that he would bring a little kid out there with him and get shot at and do the stuff he was doing with a small child. Yeah. To him, this did not make sense, and he just could not do it. Like he couldn't bring Robin into the stories in the way that others would.
Sure.
It's just something that he couldn't get past. And obviously he had Robin in his books, but not as prominent as they might have been in someone else. I kind of feel that way about the whole Lex Superman high school relationship thing. Like the idea that they went to high school together. I mean, if you want to go all the way, I mean, it's canon, right? That the reason that Lex hates Superman is because there's a fire and Superman blew Lex's hair off or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's this kind of this old nugget from the past that I kind of don't like to think about.
No, that's cool.
in my head canon, if I were I just kind of shut my ears and say la la la, and I just kind of in my head canon, the way I would like to see it is, this nobody from Kansas named Clark Kent goes to Metropolis and becomes Superman, and Lex Luthor is making his bones around the same time. He's already like well-established guy making his billions, doing his thing, and then this alien shows up and ruins everything.
Yep.
The idea that he went to Smallville High School is just kind of stupid to me.
I hear you, man. I grew up with that stuff, but I love Jeff's new spin. Also
right.
taking him away from the mad scientist and really nosing it more towards Steve Jobs, an evil Steve Jobs. But no, you're absolutely right. Lex knows how to save the world's problems, but he's going to make damn sure that everybody remembers it's Lex Luthor that was the savior of the world. And then all of a sudden, this Kryptonian shows up and gets all the glory. And it's like, hey, what the fuck? Fuck this guy.
That thing where he's there's this thing behind the scenes where at DC the tallest building in Metropolis always has to be the LexCorp building, and that comes into play in the new arc.
Hey, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic. That's so funny. My sister just got back from Philadelphia, and since modern times, they've certainly gone against that. But that building that has the William Penn statue was always supposed to be the tallest building in Philadelphia and stuff. So I love that notion. That's fantastic. Yeah, and of course, again, it's that big L.
Yeah.
Scorpel and everything. God damn it, it's still my city.
Exactly.
So yeah, I love that.
I love the pettiness of it,
Absolutely. First of all, I love this guy's name, Major Paradox. But mentioning Clark and Lex, are we going to see more Clark again? Not as Superman. While I love for the Secret Identity to come back, while I would love that, if it doesn't, it'd be nice to see Clark Kent again. So yeah, where are we with Clark's identity being public?
It's still the way it was. Like Superman is still like the world knows that Superman is Clark Kent, and I probably shouldn't get into it, I guess.
It could be a simple answer of everyone knows, and so we won't see Clark out of costume being Clark interacting beyond Lois. I mean, obviously when they're together, he's not Superman. I mean, he's Clark, but
the way that Major Paradox means it is kind of like it kind of would be pointless at this point. Like the fact that everyone kind of knows. So yeah, the way things are right now, the secret identity is gone and everyone knows who he is. So like at the beginning of the Superman arc that I did, the one who fell, you kind of see Clark and Lois and John at a putt-putt thing. And he's dressed like Clark would, but no glasses. Sure. And you kind of see some people in the background looking like, oh shit, it's him. But
that's cool. That's all right.
I kind of don't get into it right now because if the secret identity were to ever come back down the line, I don't want people to go back to the book and be like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know. It's not an issue.
Yeah, man. It would have to be, all right, we're going back to, what in whatever convoluted way to put the genie back in the bottle, you'd have to do that because it's either commit to no, everybody knows now, or again, maybe a reboot of even a soft reboot of whatever interdimensional issue I don't want Mephisto to show up and wipe everybody's memory like in Spider-Man, but Nick has a good question, and actually I wonder when he says first of all he loves how massive the super family is getting in size. Can we expect any more recruits to the House of Vel? Hemus is Lanarok in the S, but I would ask, based on what you gave us in Future State, will we see more of the seeds of that connecting now that he's back from War World?
I'd like to, yeah. I have my own opinions about. Again, I'm not going to show anyone the family tree because I feel like at some point it'll get broken by another writer down the line. I don't want to spoil anything, but I mean, I know my headcanon for how we get from the current family to that family. And honestly, I'd love to show them. I'd like to show a crossover. Like I'd love to see Clark, like young Clark, interacting with those guys again because I love those characters and it was really fun. It'd be fun to show, Yeah, I shouldn't get into it, but yeah, I would love to see that whole thing crossover. Lana is great, and I can't speak for. There's going to be. We are going to see some more Steel stories, and Lana, of course, is a big part of John Henry Irons' life and of Clark's past, and I'm sure that she'll come into it at some point. Forgive me, Power Girl, like the backup in 1051. The backups, there's the Dan and Lee one that's about young John, like the kind of the past story. But my friend Leah Williams and Marguerite are doing a Power Girl thing. And I mean, we could just keep there's so many, right? We could bring out the horse and the cat and the monkey and everything. Like every character and pet and everything that's ever been around, all the Kryptonian, whoever's. But at some point, it's got to be too many, and as we're getting close as it is, so I'm not going to be making I'm not going to add a lot of other regulars, but it is going to be the super family book. So I mean, even if we don't have room for it in the lead story, it doesn't mean you're not going to see him in the backups or in another super book.
That's great. I got to be honest. I didn't mind Lana becoming Superwoman, but by the same token, we need important civilians in both the DC and Marvel universe. And that's the thing. It's like Lana had plenty of agency as the girl Clark leaves behind once he, embraces his powers. And that kind of her relationship with Clark replaced the pre-crisis Pete Ross Clark relationship, where that's one of his human friends that knows the secret. And my favorite relationship in the Marvel universe is Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock, because Foggy's the one human being that can get in Matt's face and go, "Hey, you're fucking up. I know you. Don't tell me you've got all this handled. I know better." And Lana could have that relationship. Pete, always in pre-crisis, was just a good soldier. And again, in that great Silver Age way, he doesn't need to know I know. I got his back. I'm his friend. And Clark knew that Pete was his friend, but didn't know the degree that Pete could caretake the secret. Now that the secret's out, again, it's important for these people to be part of their lives. And it doesn't betray the Lois Clark relationship that Lana is this old girlfriend, but also very trusted friend that has known him from the beginning. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. I don't disagree at all. I mean, it's comics. I mean, there's other humans in his life, but I do like the idea of the girl he left behind, that, the relationship that might've been, that stays intact and doesn't get all super powered out. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it'd be naive to think that would never happen. Same thing with, like, it's funny to go back to the time where Bucky was still dead and think that would ever last. Because,
yeah,
it's comics, and it's bombastic, and it's like these things just change very, very quickly sometimes. And yeah, I don't disagree.
No, and again, when I get a chance to talk Superman beyond what you guys have planned, I always love, like, I have my own questions, and again, that's why I want to bring up some of the other relationships and stuff. So.
I've never been able to do C2E2 because of, like, tour and stuff, like army things. But I think I'm going to be able to go to this one, so we should get together.
Oh, at the end of March?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. That's so funny. I was talking to another podcaster, and I was telling him, the C2E2 show last December, I'm like, Phillip couldn't make it to it, but he had an army thing the following week, and he calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, let's have lunch." And of course we had an awesome lunch. So,
it was awesome.
Oh, that's great, man. Oh, I hope you are able to make it, dude.
I think I should. Yeah, I should work out this time.
That's great. Oh, Fantruff says regarding Clark, let Clark do reporting on an alien civilization or something. He doesn't need to abandon his journalist side. The way Brian left things, and again, you came in, you took him off world and stuff like that. But essentially, the thought was that Clark will still work at the Daily Planet, even though he's Superman.
Yeah.
Are you going to explore that side of him in your story in any way?
Yeah, completely.
Okay.
For those who haven't read it, the Superman Worlds of War thing, that whole thing, those two issues were kind of like my mission statement on who Superman is and what the run would be. So if that truck out there with my name on it got me the next day, like, it's out there, like, here's my Superman. And yeah, the whole second issue was a piece that he wrote.
Right. Yes, I remember that now. Yes,
I would love to do a lot more of that. And then issue 1030 started out with Lois writing a piece, and
of course.
I love that they're both writers.
Yeah,
and that they both, even when they're not, when Superman's not out, punching robots, he's saving the world through his writing and winning hearts and minds and just showing us how to be better than we are and all that. And I want to see that. And I mean, yeah, I'm definitely going to be. I want to read more of Lois's writing, of Clark's writing.
Oh yeah.
And it's we're going to see more of their work because they identify as writers. I mean, he was born into. I mean, Clark's a hero, and he was raised as a farmer. He chose to be a journalist, and I myself hold journalism in the highest regard, and I love that aspect of him, and I want to see it on the page. Actually, at New York Comic Con when I was there, I probably the highlight of the whole con was that I had breakfast with George Costinas. He's a employee at the New York Times and writes a lot for them as well.
Yes.
He's he just got a promotion. He's like the photo editor or something.
Oh wow. Hey,
he's forgive me, George, I know you're going to listen to this thing. I'm sorry I'm fucking it up. There's he has a job of some prominence in there, like managing the images that go in the paper. But he's had managerial gigs there, and he writes. Like whenever you see anything about a comic in the New York Times, it's always George Wright, and he's got this deep love of comics, especially DC stuff. He loves Superman, and I just think George is awesome. So we got breakfast, and he gave me a little tour of the Times.
Oh, that's great! Wow,
it was so awesome.
Wow,
oh my god! I mean, because it's straight up the Daily Planet.
I'm hip. Oh my god! Yes,
it was like this holy place. I couldn't believe how amazing it was in there. It was even better than I imagined. I mean, it was just this incredible, amazing place. I think George is awesome. And check this out, actually. So at his desk, so they're in a building that they were only in for like the past 12 years or so. And during when they were moving in, something like they got like hard hats to wear and stuff when the building was going up.
Sure.
And he gave me his.
Ha!
And like there it is.
Hold on. Yeah. All right, with the Times logo, absolutely.
I know.
George's name.
That's awesome.
Great. That's fantastic.
So my son's getting this.
Are they no longer at that great old New York Times building that was next to one of my favorite burger joints, Schneppers? You know what I'm talking about in Manhattan?
No, actually, I don't know Schneppers.
Okay, because several times in recent years when I would go to New York Comic Con, we'd all stay. Me, Art, and Franco would all stay at this one hotel that was walking distance from the old New York Times building with the big logo out front, big giant, skyscraper and stuff. And I'm not surprised at the Times move because much like that, the Tribune, Chicago Tribune, finally moved out of Tribune Tower in the last couple of years. And it's heartbreaking because, goddamn, Robert McCormick, the grand old publisher that Charles Foster Kane is based on in Citizen Kane, is the guy who built Tribune Tower. And kind of like Charles Foster Kane, there were embedded in the building various stones. I mean, it's terrible, but like he took a square from the Great Pyramid. He took all these like infamous like landmark places and grabbed stones and embedded them in the building. And WGN, that was for a long time owned by the Chicago Tribune, was still broadcasting at the basement or on the ground level of Tribune Tower. And I got to do a couple shows as a guest and did a couple radio shows. And it was just like you're saying, to be in Tribune Tower, I felt like Clark Kent. And I'm like, I really, my lifelong dream was to work in a building like that. And even in that small capacity, I'm like, all right, bucket list cleared. All right, good deal. I did a couple radio broadcasts at Tribune Tower. I can rest easy now.
Exactly. It was just unbelievable experience. So George, if you're listening, thank you again for that.
That's great, man.
Changed my life. I looked it up here. He just became the director of photo operations and strategy. They did this really nice write-up on him. In 14 roles over more than 3 decades at the Times, George Costinas has been indispensable in every one. They go on and on about him. So anyway, that was super dope and probably my highlight of the con.
That's cool. Listen, I see questions about Alien. We are going to get
please.
You know,
Yeah, anything about Alien or 007, love to talk about
yeah.
any of that stuff.
Well, Doubt says, by the way, the New York Times building is still there by Schneppers, and I'm
Oh,
glad that
good.
Doubt knows what I'm talking about. No, I realize that. I just don't. I mean, I hope that the Times is still operating within that building in whatever capacity, because Tribune has absolutely pulled out of Tribune Tower
Mm.
and is now in a different location downtown. And again, it's as the. I mean, the grand old lady that the New York Times is seems to be more impervious to the various collapses of newspapers, but not completely. And I'm glad that Georgia is secure in what he's doing and
Oh
that he
yeah.
still has important jobs there. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm seeing it. I mean, we all know, man. I mean, the newspaper went from being this thick to like pamphlet size now, and it's
Yeah,
insane.
totally. But I mean, the Times seem to have it figured out though, man. They're on a boom right now. They're really doing well. I
Well,
mean,
and again,
there's always going to be waves up and down, but right now they're in an upswing.
and even back in putting it in Superman terms, I appreciate the way the Daily Planet has evolved. And for a while there, I wondered if they were going to address the decline of newspapers. But no, the Daily Planet is essentially the New York Times of the DC universe, and should evolve into an all media brand in
Yeah, exactly.
ways that the Times has, and other the Post and other great brands, even the Tribune for that matter.
Right.
Robert Willing and Tevya Smalka have been asking a lot about General Zod and Chris Kent, who has after that period where Clark tried to mentor him and be a better example. Chris has gone back to General Zod's family, and the general question is: would we see Chris Kent and General Zod, and will Zod's Kryptonian family maybe expand more in the Phantom Zone or in any way? Will we see Zod and Chris in upcoming Superman issues?
I can't say for sure, but I know that Zod gets a lot of love in the office. My editor actually has a hat with the Zod logo on it. I got no idea where he got that
Oh,
thing.
that's awesome! The Kryptonese
Yeah,
that is Zod's logo. That's great.
yeah. Paul's got one of those, and I mean, I love Zod also. Honestly, he's such a friggin' dope villain. I'm afraid to overuse him because I mean he's just so incredible. And yeah, the whole Chris Kent thing. Um, Look, I don't know how we're going to use him yet, but I would be shocked if a year went by without him getting used in some prominent way. I mean, with what happens with the Philosians and what's about to happen with with the kids and with everyone else on in Metropolis, and just other things that I'd like to build to. I mean, I'm starting to talk and think as if I'm going to be on the book for 10, 20 years, and I know it's not the case, but well, I don't know that. Hopefully I will. But there's all these things I would like to do.
Sure.
And Zod would play a huge part in that if I'm allowed. So yeah, I would love to use Zod again. Yeah, we'll see.
And also, Caesar has an interesting question. Will we get to see the rest of the universe react to the fall of Warworld?
In a way, yes. So for everyone who read that book, that at the end we kind of get into the mythology. One of the things I wanted to do with the Warworld saga, I mean, the whole thing that tied the whole thing together was human trafficking, really. But I also wanted to see Superman in a totally different scenario, like just at the core of who he is, without all the trappings, without the powers, everything else. Just
Right.
who is Superman? What is Superman? What should we be? But also, I wanted to tie the kind of the Old Testament of the DC universe, which I regard to be the Kirbyverse, like the Fourth World stuff. I want to tie that more directly into modern continuity characters. So we kind of did that with revealing that Warworld is actually, one of 7 god aspects of Ulgrin, one of the first gods
Yes.
gods of the first world. And in saving Osel Ra's life, Superman makes him a new god, basically. Like puts 1/7 of Ulgrin into him, making him a new god of the Kirbyverse.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So there's this whole big thing that we're building to, that I like to do. If I live long enough, if they keep me long enough, there's this thing that I want to do that's unbelievably epic. And yeah, between that and what's going to happen with United Planets, because I mean, Krill Ooks is out there and he's got a huge axe to grind with the leader of that whole organization. There are followers of Mongol who are still out there, like Mongol loyalists who are out there in the universe, basically like space pirates now because they've all been displaced. Not everyone on Warworld bows to Superman's, victory.
Sure.
Some of them, rather than take off their chains, many of them left, and they're out there. And the word Mongol means strongest. So now Krill-Ux is Mongol, basically, depending on who you are talking to. Mongol could either be Superman or Krill-Ux, this Philosian guy. So there are characters out there doing bad shit, and the United Planets is in a lot of people's crosshairs.
That's excellent.
There's also there's 6 other aspects of Ulgrin that are in a way that have in a way been awakened by the awakening of the fire of Ulgrin. There's 6 other things besides the fire that are out there. So anyway, yes, we're going to see the world thing play out.
Excellent. Brian pops in with a good question. Will we see any multiverse other Supermen into action?
No comment.
Fair enough. Attaboy. That's what I love to hear. Yeah, everyone can read between the lines on that. That's excellent. Also, how about Brainiac? Will we see Brainiac coming up?
Brainiac is another one of those things where if I were going to do him justice, I would need like another Mongol size runway, because I would want to do like this big ass Brainiac thing, because he's not for me at least, he's not the kind of guy that you just bring out for a couple issues and then then lock him up again. He's a Mongol level threat.
Agreed.
So not in the immediate future. I would love to get around to Brainiac, but right now I've got other guys on the docket.
That sounds great. I haven't had a chance to watch the animated Super Sons movie. I'm seeing questions about that. Have you seen it yet?
I have not.
There you go. I understand.
No,
I know you and your son will be likely watching that at some point.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Dude, and you saw it on the lobby card for this episode. I just love that picture. I'm sure how much older is your son now? How old is he now?
He's 8 now.
That's great.
He's going to be 9 soon. Yeah. That picture, I've told you this before, but we took that picture before I got the Superman gig. We were just fans then. It was right after COVID started. So it would have been like 2.5 years ago when we took that picture. It was like March, I think, like March 2020. So yeah, he would have been not quite 6. Aw.
Adorable. Man, sorry that it's a little blurry, but absolutely, that's fine. A great picture.
And he's so awesome.
That's fantastic, man. I love it. Well, and again, man, Chris, we've been talking more than an hour just about Superman. Let's see. Oh, Wesley says, I'll take more Brainiac, please. Absolutely.
Man, I would fucking love to. Yeah. I would love to write Brainiac. I just don't want to knock him out real quick. I want it to be like a big thing. And I'm not going to say never. I mean, that would be something I'd love to do. Even if my time on Superman expires and we haven't done it, I have a Brainiac thing I would love to pitch and, come back, whether it be a dark label, a black label thing, or come back on one of the titles or a mini or whatever.
Obviously you, Josh Williamson, and Tom Taylor are kind of the main architects right now for the Superman titles, but also Louis Headache mentions that Mark Russell had that great Superman Space Age story and his future state stuff that he did. Is he in the mix at all for writing any future Superman stuff?
Mark's great. I don't see him not doing something at some point, but the thing about not currently, no. Like the main continuity books right now are action Superman adventures. Yeah. But Space Age is awesome. Mark Waid's World's Finest is awesome, but they are kind of in their own space, like they're their own thing.
Understood. And also, Wade's doing a great job with World's Finest as well.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So I don't know if he gets to Skull Session at all with you guys.
It's not. He's not in the chat that we're doing all the time. If he wants in, he's welcome to talk to us.
Sure.
His story is just it happens earlier, right? So it's just all the questions that Tom and Josh and I are asking each other all the time, like, what do you do with this character? Blah blah blah. There's no need to bother with that kind of stuff because it's just a different timeline.
Understood. Absolutely. Have you had a chance to meet Mark yet?
Not in a while. No, no, I have not spoken to Mark since I've been writing Superman.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this has all been happening during COVID. So I have not crossed paths with him anywhere.
Okay, let's see. Andrew wants to know how Kenny Porter's Connor series fits in all of this.
It is also kind of its own thing. Like Kenny's going to be. I'm going to make sure that Kenny is up to date on everything that we're doing in our book, and that nothing contradicts the other. But as I understand it, I don't want to say. I can't spoil anything from Kenny's book or my own. But I am confident we'll be aware of each other's work before any of that stuff comes out.
Who's the Superman editor now?
Paul Kaminsky.
Oh, okay.
And Jillian Grant is also on board. I mean, the ones I work with are Paul and Jillian. I know there are other editors working on another book. I don't know if Jillian's doing all the Superman books. I would imagine so. But I know Chris Rosa is also in the mix.
Understood. I know Connor, obviously, or rather John, is still Electric Blue. And I don't know how that will play into the immediate plans for what's going on.
That's the Electric Blue thing happens in another book, and I don't want to spoil anyone else's stuff.
Fair enough. I appreciate that.
Sorry, Tevye.
Not at all. No.
I met Tevye at New York Comic Con. It's good to hear from you, man. Thanks for.
Oh, that's nice. Very good,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, I've seen. He does some YouTube videos sometimes, and he was in the audience at our panel.
Outstanding. That's outstanding. Caesar wants to know: will we see the Warzoons again?
Hell yeah, you will. I love those guys.
That's great, man.
Also, I have all the stuff about the different tribes and stuff that I hope to put if they rubber stamp my page count that this collection is going to have in it. I have all kinds of stuff I can tell you about the different tribes and how they work together and how they who's at war with who and how they're different. Like which one brought humans to War World and who's there.
All right, last Superman question. I want to know about Black Adam if you've seen it, but we'll get to that in a second.
I have not seen it yet.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Then we won't discuss Black Adam. That's good.
But I know what happened. I have an internet connection, therefore I know what happens at the end because everyone's spoiled.
Oh well, of course the spoiler, absolutely. And I'm all for. You're right, and I guess that's probably not. We could certainly talk about that. Magic K wants to know: will Toyman show up in Action Comics?
Not in Action. I don't know if he's going to be in the other books or not. I've got a funny relationship with Toyman. I don't know how I feel about Toyman.
I so hear you.
Yeah,
I appreciate the history, but it was a goofy character, and I mean, and really the attempts to make him more realistic, kind of making him a scarier person, is slightly interesting. But beyond Lex Luthor, there are very few human villains. Metallo is one of them, but again, Kryptonite Heart, all of that. There are just very few human villains that can really match up with Superman outside of, again, the Mort Weisinger goofy era, which I adore, but it just doesn't fit in the modern, scape of stories these days.
Yeah, I mean, Toyman, as I see him in my mind's eye, is kind of derpy, and he's got the bow tie and the big dumb toy, like literal.
And even the
toys.
kid, and even the kid Toyman, the manga giant robot guy, again goofy. I love derpy. That's a great word. Absolutely, that is exactly what Toyman is. Ooh, it is Superman. It's like, shut up, one punch.
Yeah.
Good Lord, why are you annoying me?
Right. It just doesn't make any sense. And I could do the PKJ thing and make him like a horrifying psycho. I'm a little bit hesitant to do that to Toyman, I guess. I just feel like it's a bridge too far. I don't know. Like the version I would do of Toyman to make him a threat, he'd be so creepy and scary. I just don't know that a Superman book is the version is a place for the version I see in my head, I guess.
Wesley is saying the newest version of Toyman was in Deathstroke Inc. I don't know that, was that Chris Priest that was doing something, a new spin. I had a great talk with Priest a couple months ago, mostly about the old days and heavy metal, the new stuff he's doing on heavy metal. And we both promised each other that we would come back and I'd talk more about his DC stuff and everything. So I don't know. Now, Fran Truth says that Mxyzptlk and Bizarro are derpy. However, in both cases, you're dealing with character. First of all, Mxyzptlk has magic. and you can do a shit ton of things, as many great writers have done. And if they want to lean into the funny, they can lean into the funny. If they want to lean into scary Mixyzptlk, you can do that as well. And Bizarro is fun and also a tragic figure.
Exactly.
So that is not the same as Toyman in his pinstripe suit and his bow tie and his Ben Franklin hair. Believe me, I'm sorry, man. Fran Truth, I hear what you're saying, but no.
Yeah, with respect, it's not the same.
Absolutely.
I just the version I see in my head of Toyman is just kind of doesn't have a place in the stories I'm telling right now. That's not, again, I'm never saying never. It's just it's not a character that speaks to me. Bizarro does big time. I like Bizarro for sure. And Mixyzptlk too. Like he's got his place for sure. There is a magic story I want to do very soon, hopefully.
Well, and that's why I'm so glad that they put that bonus scene in Black Adam, because as we all know, being DC fans, Black Adam's powers come from magic, so he is a formidable. I mean, even if it wasn't, but it's even scarier with Black Adam having magic-based powers. That means he can really hurt Superman.
Yeah,
totally. There are very few from a power, scale. I really look forward to hearing what you think of Black Adam, even if we just text each other, Phil. But
yeah, totally. So have you already seen it then?
Oh yeah, I went last Thursday, and I really liked it. I really liked it a lot.
Awesome, good. Well, that's high praise. I'll definitely look for it.
And
I've been wanting to see it. I just haven't got around to it. Same thing. Like there's a game that just came out, Gotham Knights, and reviews have been mixed, but I still want to get. I mean, Anders and I are still going to play together, so I don't really care what people say.
I know Gail Simone has been raving about how much she's loved playing the game.
Oh, good.
Honestly, Phil, this is where my age betrays me. Honestly, like when the Arkham City Batman games were coming out, I can't handle a modern joystick or whatever. I'm even calling it a joystick, so that even shows a controller. And all I could do was make Batman basically walk around in a circle. I couldn't do shit with it. And it's so funny. Chris Iliopoulos, who's only a couple years younger than me, is like, there should be some sort of adult education class at a community college to teach all of us old farts how to use this stuff. Because I love the games. I love Injustice and all that stuff. But I literally have to be with a friend that's younger. It's like, all right, go ahead and play the game. I'll watch you play the game.
My son had no chops on video games at all. All he'd ever played was little, touchscreen stuff on a Kindle or something. And he had a cousin about to visit, and she has mad chops on Mario Kart and Mario Odyssey and Legend of Zelda, all this stuff that he had never touched or seen. And I was like, yeah, I mean, he's at an age now where he's going to be hanging out with kids who all are playing Fortnite, when they're little bitty. And I want him to be able to hang with kids. So I was like, I got him this game called Sackboy, which is just a little doll thing that walks around and has adventures. And it's got very friendly co-op, where you can play together, on the couch, not online, but with each other. And we played together, and it was super duper fun. And now he plays a lot, borderline too much, but he also is through it. We've kind of established for him a love of STEM, and it's turned out to be this really cool thing that we share that has led to other, exposure to other cool stuff.
How about Monel and the Daxamites? Caesar wants to know if the Daxamites will show up. I love that idea that the Daxamites are kind of like the Romulans to the Vulcans in, DC terms and everything, and that they were part of the same original race, and the Daxamites just kind of, went away, did their own thing, and that they are kind of this almost assholey sort of Kryptonian group that are yeah, we're better than everybody else. Fuck you. That kind of thing.
Well, not immediately, but they are a part of the United Planets. And so we're going to see them in that capacity, hopefully.
Okay. That's excellent,
man. The Philosians are kind of like that too. The people that I recently introduced, they were away from Krypton for so long, and they have been evolving in a different solar system for so long that their powers are slightly different, and they're not like Kryptonians anymore. So I kind of see Philosians more under the Daxamite lens than Kryptonian, really.
Now, you mentioned that obviously Lois was writing at the Kandor Library.
Yeah.
I wasn't following that in the Authority book. Kandor is empty and bombed. Is it back in the bottle? Is it I know, I remember the new Krypton story from 12 years ago or so. Where is Kandor these days?
The last I saw, there was a Batman Superman issue in which, because in let's see, in the Bendis years, there was a thing where Rogol Zar killed them all, we thought, and now they're all kind of in stasis. Last I heard.
Oh, okay.
So they are alive, but kind of not in the mix.
Interesting. Okay.
So right now, Kandor is technically uninhabited, I believe.
Okay.
Again, that's aside from that library right now, there's not a lot of play.
Okay.
Would you be okay talking about Alien or Bond or something else?
I'm done. Yes. God bless you.
Because I'm not seeing the comments. If there's questions,
no, there are. There absolutely are. And let's start with Alien and also Marvel in general. Are there plans for book 2 for Alien, or where do things stand with Alien?
Yeah, so we had 2 arcs in the first quote unquote season on Marvel's
annual.
Alien. We had 12 issues there plus the annual.
Yep.
And now, because of like the various reasons involving like the delays regarding the paper and all that stuff that was happening during COVID, we are like we just kicked off season 2 with a relaunch of number 1 with a new artist. There's a new art team on it now. And it's the third arc. It was the same arc we were always going to do, but now we're kind of seeing it as we're framing it as a season 2 of the same series.
Yeah.
And this issue is called this arc is called Alien Icarus, and it follows a team of synthetic special operators, like an all synths special ops team called Steel Team. And there's this big tragedy, and we need the United Systems needs Steel Team to kind of get back in the saddle one more time and go to an old Weyland-Yutani R&D station and retrieve an egg. Like humanity kind of relies on getting an ovomorph. And so they go down there expecting to find, nothing alive because the whole place has been irradiated for, a generation. And they are surprised by what they find. These are like the baddest androids that we've ever seen in any kind of alien story. And they've never had a casualty to any organic enemy. And we're going to see him against the perfect organism. So I'm pretty stoked about it. And Julius Ota is doing the art, and he is fucking killing it.
Good to know. Well, I love the art. I love the art in the first 12 issues in the annual. I mean,
thank you. Appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely, man. So when does Icarus start?
It's already up.
I apologize, Philip.
No, you're good. No,
well,
number one came out, and number 2 just hit, I believe.
Oh, excellent. All right, good deal.
Yeah, I'll get you those.
Oh, thanks, man. And also, there were questions in the chat as well. Any other, any MCU proper? I mean, not that anything's wrong with Alien, but any possible plans of seeing you do some Marvel superheroes?
I have been super underwater just lately, and I actually had to let go of a thing because of that. But I do have a story that I am about to pitch. I kind of like soft pitched it at New York Comic Con, and it was received very warmly at Marvel. And yeah, I'm going to end up pitching it at some point soon when I get the bandwidth. There's a story I'm going to do there, and I can't say what it is, but it's one of the few things I don't typically pitch stuff. Like lately, they come like an editor will pitch me like, "Hey, would you want to do this thing?" And then I will give them my take on that thing. But not often. I don't usually go to an editor like, "Hey, I want to write, Spectre or whatever." Like I don't usually go to them, but here's the thing I want to do. Usually they're like, "Hey, would you want to do this?" And then I'll pitch them my idea for that thing. I'll give them ideas based on what they need. But this is a case in which there is a story I want to tell real bad, and it relies on these specific characters, and I think it's going to be unbelievably cool. So I'm confident. This is with an artist I worked with before that's incredible, and I think it's going to be good. And it probably, if I had to guess, I'd say it'll be out in probably a year and change. Because I do need to wait until I got the space.
Tevya, I'm going to ask your question without specifically mentioning the characters people can watch in the chat who you're asking for. Why don't we wait for the announcement from Marvel and Phillip as far as which specific characters, even the ones that you are suggesting?
I mean, they haven't even said yes yet.
Well, there you go. And also, that's fine. I mean, again, I appreciate the enthusiasm that some fans have, but it's like, okay, we're basically covering what you're asking, and I'm not going to get into specifics because Phillip doesn't want to get into specifics. So we get it. It's cool. All right. So also, and of course, we can start talking about 007. Deanna wants to know, how's your experience been with the Bond franchise so far?
Hey, Deanna's a friend.
Oh, good.
It's been awesome.
She's looking out for you. There you go.
Yeah. No, they've been great, man. It's been really, really fun. I had this, I kind of wanted to do like a John le Carré / Ed Brubaker kind of like really cool spy story that's not so. I mean, it's definitely got action in it, but it's also it's like just kind of more moody and in the shadows and a different kind of thing. I want to see more spycraft at a Bond. We're doing that hardcore. It's been awesome. I mean, they're really spoiling me with the art, both with the covers and with Marco Finnegan is doing the interiors. And let me do the story I want to do. It was originally gonna be just a 6-issue thing, but the story just kind of got bigger in the telling, and so now the whole first 6 issues is kind of like, I mean, it's its own story, but it also sets up this other 6 issues that's going to be like so cool. I can't wait to show what's coming next. So it's looking like 12 now.
That's great, man.
Yeah, unless it grows again.
Hey, man, honestly, I love what Dynamite has done with 007. So many of my favorite writers and artists have had their opportunities with the character. It is great that you're getting the opportunity as well. I'm showing all these alternate covers to the first issue. Are you 3 issues in or 2 issues in?
Yeah, 3. Let's see, number 3 just hit, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's either just hit or I think it just came out.
And without spoiling, what can you tell us about the first arc?
The first arc is about. Well, okay, it kind of revolves around a new kind of Bond girl. Instead of the usual thing, this is thanks, Stephanie. Stephanie's also a very talented writer. Also, Jesus, listen to me. Stephanie.
Hey, it sounds like she's Greek. That was like a Greek name. So
yeah, we haven't talked about it, but I assume so.
You had me at hello. There you go.
Let's see. Yeah, it revolves around a new kind of Bond girl. Instead of being like the subordinate or the girl in the bar, she's a 00 that's well established by the time Bond shows up at the 00 section.
Is this her?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's her.
What's her name?
She looks different in the interiors. Her name is Gwendolyn Gann.
Okay.
003.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, she's kind of like the legendary 00 when Bond gets his first gig in the 00.
Wow, cool.
And she, like, when they meet, she's like, you got some big shoes to fill. And he's like, I hear the big shoes to fill are yours. Like, you're 003, you're the shit. And she ends up being kind of like his mentor. And I want to see a Bond girl that's actually a little bit older than him, and like no less badass and beautiful, but just like super capable. That kind of shows him how to do the gig. And there it is.
I know. Yeah, I'm sure every nationality, man. It's like, hey, Italians, hey, paisan. Absolutely, man. But no, the Greeks are always happy to meet more Greeks. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, Gwen Gann is super dope, and I can't spoil. Like, something happens in the first issue that I shouldn't spoil, but it kind of kicks off the whole adventure, and the whole thing is kind of driven by Bond's devotion to Gwen Gann, and like becomes this big mystery that he sets out to solve, and is ready to like burn the house down to get to the bottom of what happened.
And the flip. Pardon me. Finish your thought. And then
no. Well, I shouldn't anyway. It kind of leads into the second arc.
Okay. I know obviously the Fleming estate vets these stories when they are pitched through Dynamite and stuff. And Zach is asking that, but I will expand on that. And really, the more important question is with 003. They were cool with that, obviously, and and he put any, and you don't have to get into specifics. Did they have any notes for you regarding 003? And again, I don't want you to give me specifics. It's okay.
Actually, no.
Good.
No, they were very cool with Gwen Gann. And
good.
There's even a scene, I can spoil that, I guess. There's a scene in which a bunch of 00s get together. And that was super fun to see.
Oh, that's very cool. Wow.
Kind of like a little foreshadowing thing that's coming up. And I was like, they're not going to let me do this. But they did. They let me do it.
That's great. I loved when they introduced Sean Bean in GoldenEye as, another 00 and everything. And it's like, and that's why Philip, I have to confess, it's been a year. I have not seen No Time to Die. because I cannot bring myself to watch James Bond die. And it's so ridiculous. And I understand. And of course, as they said at the end, I'm well aware at the end of the movie, it said James Bond will return. And
Yeah.
obviously, Amazon bought MGM, and there are all these big plans. They're just figuring it out. And also, I think the franchise, from a movie standpoint, deserves a rest.
Yeah.
And let
Yeah.
put a little air in between Daniel Craig's run. But yeah, man, it's just
Well, and
when
it
they
was such an epic run.
yeah.
I mean, everyone kind of, I mean, it's not like these are not my first Bond movies. I'm older, but these are the first movies, like the Craig was the first ones where I really like kind of got into it and I really liked
Really?
them. Yeah. I mean, the old ones are fine. Like I had other ones that I liked, but they're what they are. They're kind of campy and it's just not not entirely my brand. And some of them are really cool. But the Craig ones are totally my brand. And I really like the best of the Craig movies are great, like really great.
I'm with
And
you.
honestly, I thought No Time to Die was pretty good. I thought Spectre was kind of a tragedy.
What a missed opportunity
Yeah.
on all levels, and especially having Christoph Waltz be Blofeld. And it's like what you did with it. It's like, oh man, you fucking blew it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. But they kind of they got some goodwill back from me on that last one. It was
That's
better.
good. Well,
It's not as good. It's not as good as Skyfall or Casino Royale, but it was
I love
better.
Skyfall. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah, it
love
was
it.
great.
Well, Casino Royale was great.
That's the best one.
Quantum of Solace. You know, it happened in the middle of the writers' strike, and obviously, unfortunately, the movie was impacted by it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what are you gonna do? You know, but yeah, no, I'm with you. And again, I mean, I always when I talk about Bond, I always love to bring up that when I first saw the Bond movies on TV, I saw them on especially the first couple Connery movies. First movie I saw in the theater was Live and Let Die, and I appreciate the Bond fans, especially the younger ones, that look at the Roger Moore movies and go, all right, a little hokey, and they lean into the comedy way too far. But I will still defend Live and Let Die and For Your Eyes Only, because even at For Your Eyes Only, they're like, all right, let's get Bond back to earth, especially after Moonraker, and tell just a good spy story. And I thought they succeeded with For Your Eyes Only. But that said, the first couple I saw on TV, like Goldfinger and Doctor No, I saw them on black and white TVs. So by the time VHS came out and I saw that they were color movies, it was a massive shock to me because I had seen them on black and white TVs and I thought they were black and white movies.
Awesome.
So yeah, what are you gonna do? Exactly.
Yeah, my problem with some of those is that I like the take of Bond, like the aspect of the novels that I like is that he describes himself as a blunt instrument,
Yes.
you know, and that's
Yes.
kind of I like that. I like the guy that that kills people and just kind of he's like he just kind of sees it as his whole blue collar gig. He's not
Yes.
super worried about it. All the stuff about the like fashion and high cuisine and all that. I never really gave a shit about that stuff. But I know that those things are like part of the character. I like and I like how much the Craig ones lean into that too. He's like, yeah, kill people. Like seeing him talk the way he does in Casino Royale, especially. And even when he starts getting more into like finer stuff, he's still a killer. And he still kind of has that like don't fuck with me kind of a look all the time.
Yeah.
So that is the primary asset that I've taken from the films and from the novels for the comic version. I want to see him as that guy who, yeah, everything he says and does is like the epitome of cool, but in the end, he's a killer, and that's what matters.
That's great, man. And no, and I love how the comics are really like reflecting the Fleming Bond in general, who I do. Yeah, it's a much more interesting character. Have you read it? Maybe we've talked about this before. Have you ever read the old comic strips that Titan has republished in collected editions? And this, I forget which British newspaper, they predate Connery as Bond. And in fact, I really believe that they cast Connery because he looked like John McCluskey, the original Bond comic strip artist, and his depiction of Bond.
No, I've not read those. I knew they were out there, but I didn't read them when I was prepping for the gig.
No, and that's cool. That's Zach says Casino Royale is his favorite Bond film. No, man, again, and then Craig was a wonderful caretaker, actor for the character and everything. He was amazing.
It's a great interpretation of that original story. I mean, it takes the things that work in the novel and adds enough stuff without really changing the heart of what the story is. It's great.
No, I'm with you, and I'm with Tevye. I agree. I think Craig's best films were Casino Royale and Skyfall.
Yeah,
Definitely.
The challenge in doing the comic was taking the essential aspects, like the essential aspects of Bond stories that everyone knows. Like there's the Bond girl, there's the tech gadgets is always part of it.
Yes.
The theatrical aspect of the villain, like some kind of like a visually theatrical aspect, whether it be like the hat that that you throw, or the teeth, or the golden gun thing. There's various theatrical things that make it not just a guy in a chair or not just another bad guy. There's something visually striking about the bad guy. There's like the car thing, or like some kind of a car chase, which in the comics, actually, we did like a couple of motorcycle chases. There's various things that make it feel like Bond that I'm not going to undo. But the fact that they let me kind of rearrange those aspects and tell more of an espionage, like mystery kind of noir story, it was really cool. I'm really honored that they let me mess with it in the way that I did.
Here's an action page from the first issue.
Yeah,
and
actually,
who's your interior artist?
Marco Finnegan is his name. Yeah, he's terrific.
What were you going to say, actually?
Some behind the scenes stuff. Hopefully, nobody gets pissed at me for saying this, but in the first issue, in the original pitch, the character that we see in that opening scene, Bond kills him to prevent him from getting taken. And it's a thing that, it's the spy game, and he's the guy was an asset, and he couldn't let the bad guys get what he knows. But when that was one note that did not get past the Flemings. They were like, nope, can't do this.
Wow.
Can't kill a good guy.
Wow, because that really is classic Fleming.
I pitched it hard.
Absolutely what Fleming would write.
I pitched it hard, and I was like, come on, let me do this. And they're like, nope, no way.
I get it, and that's fine. And again, they're the caretakers of the character, and they have the say. But if Sir Ian was still alive, I bet you would have gotten the ability to do that.
So, I like to think so. But it's the way we did it was close enough that actually is still, like, the impact is still there. It's just we had to find a way, like, okay, if I can't do it, what are we going to do instead? But it was cool. They're actually been very gracious with their notes, and everything's been fine.
There's a Netflix movie, and it's actually a British movie, but it's on Netflix, and it's called Operation Mincemeat, and it's a world.
Oh yeah,
have you seen it?
No, I've not yet. But the when I was in the UK, there was this Scottish dude who was kind of like my band's handler. And he is one of the biggest Bond fans I've ever met.
Sure.
I gave him a copy. The first issue came out while I was over there, and I gave him a copy, and he starts crying. He's like, yeah, he's like a huge fan. He's got great, man. He's got this tie that's like a 007 tie. He's this whole story. I won't get into it, but anyway, he's such a fan. And he was telling me about Operation Mincemeat, and about how he's from Croatia originally, and talked about how one of the original spies that James Bond is based on was a Croatian dude. And,
that's cool.
Yeah, but he talked about the movie a lot, and how Fleming is kind of in it.
Yes, he's a supporting character,
right?
And that's why I really, and listen, they don't meet your heroes, that kind of thing. Fleming's personal life is a complicated, very human life, and I'll leave it at that. People can discover on their own. But the one great thing about Fleming was, they always say, right, well, Fleming was a real intelligence agent, and also a man that came up with intelligence scenarios during World War II. And Operation Mincemeat is a real thing that I believe it's based on a real thing that he was involved in.
Yeah, he was involved in it. There was another writer who was too. Who's the other writer?
Oh, I don't know.
There's oh my God, I'm going to look it up while we're talking here.
By all means, man. Yeah,
Roald Dahl, I think, right?
Oh, I didn't realize. You're right. He is in the movie. Yes, he is one of the characters in the movie. And and it's Colin Firth and Matthew McFadden are like the two main military intelligence guys in the movie. Yeah. It's a great movie. I'm a sucker for period movies anyway, and especially World War II espionage movies, or really the whole Cold War. And honestly, I think it's a real challenge to be able to tell, although we're kind of entering a new world of international espionage, as we know, as depicted in today's headlines.
Yeah.
God, even the Attorney General, as we're recording this today, made a big announcement about Chinese spies
I
that they
saw
just
that,
shut
like
down.
charges up against two. Were they? Yeah, Chinese spy. Were they in the States?
Yes, and they
Okay.
were trying. There was some like legitimate front that actually was a front for Chinese espionage
Yeah.
that they were trying to like elevate their uh,
Right.
ability to do business here in the states.
Trying to
And
recruit. Yeah.
yeah, and the AG shut them down, so that's cool. Yeah, I mean it's and of course again without getting into politics, the former president has got some issues with intelligence information and everything. So I was going to say that.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Something I heard, probably a rumor, fake news.
Yeah, it's probably.
Anyway, the but for a while there, I was wondering like how relevant can Bond be, because you don't just want to do the Blofelds and the master villains there. Well, my plot to destroy the world. It's like, I mean, that was a blast in the 60s, and I lapped that shit up as a kid. But now it is a more complex intelligence. I mean, it always was, but I think there are good opportunities, and I'm glad you mentioned Le Carre in terms of what you wanted to do. Another fantastic British writer that obviously spy novel fans are well
Yeah.
aware of. But that's the thing, then there are real world things that you could throw James Bond into, and I think would be much more interesting stories.
Honestly, you're like playing right into my hands, John. Like this new arc is like straight up what you're talking about.
Well, that's honestly, Phil.
It's,
When I heard you were doing Bond, it's like they couldn't find somebody better, because not only that,
thanks,
but
dude.
also your military background
Well,
and everything too.
it is about it's about the role of espionage in this new world where where defense contractors are playing a bigger and bigger role, and like the tech is just so unbelievably advanced now. Like what role does a blunt instrument have in a world like this?
Sure.
And also, so that's one question that the book asks. Another is kind of the parallels between, well, contrasting service in service of your country versus service to a corporation, like patriotism versus capitalism, basically. And honestly, part of that has kind of grown out of my own questions about patriotism, and like why does one serve, and how does it change in this modern era with everything that's happened. So like ironically, I'm using not a Captain America story or a Superman story, but a James Bond story to ask questions about patriotism and about the nature of warfare, the changing nature of warfare. Yeah, it's kind of getting my therapy in on James Bond.
I can appreciate that, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, the word patriot, I took the word patriot to be like a virtue, and now it's kind of not, like the way the word's kind of been co-opted in a way that is not good. Like
No, I hear you, man.
Very often you see people with the word, in their bio and social media is like American patriot. It doesn't hit like it used to. Sometimes it doesn't even really mean what people think it means.
Right,
not even what those people think they mean when they're saying it.
Well, and that's why, because of your own service and your real understanding of what patriotism is, as a former journalist, and again, I respect people like yourself, and I do too, in terms of understanding patriotism and love for your country. But I always think of that quote unquote, and I can't remember who said it, but sometimes, and these kind of fake patriots, patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. And coming from boxing, and how Don King would literally drape himself in the flag, got very ugly and disgusting to me. And it's like, we all know you're a poser, pal. I mean, and again, he scared the hell out of me because he came from the Cleveland mob. So I never wanted to mess with him. And he was nice to me on the surface, but I kept my hand on my wallet, and again, knew who I was dealing with in my few interviews and encounters with Don. And yeah, unfortunately, that level and that kind of nationalism, and even the word nationalism, it's like, man, way way to fuck up a word, man, and way to pervert its meaning to something completely new and frankly the opposite of what it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the book gets into that. I mean, Gwen Gann as a character in the Bond book is he's Bond is just so impressed with her, and in part because oh, thanks, Radium, I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Radium says something nice there, and he even says he doesn't have the money to buy more books, yet you sold it to me.
Oh, good, thanks. Well, meet me at a con sometime. I'll give you a free one.
There you go.
Yeah, Gwen Gann is not just a badass assassin and spy and the whole package, but she also is in it for Queen and Country. You know, she got in to do the hard thing for her homeland. You know.
Yes.
And since then, the world kind of left her behind, and she's kind of this relic in a way as far as her reasons for doing it. But she kind of tries to remind Bond. You know, Bond has a more of a glass half empty, like making snarky comments kind of approach to that whole thing. But Gwen tries to kind of, you know, inspire the best of him. And he's like, he's just so impressed with her, even though he doesn't feel the same way.
Understood.
And then later on, when he's tested, he kind of looks back to her example, like, you know, where do I stand in this situation?
I like it. No, that's great. Have you back in the day? Have you ever read Rucka's Queen and Country spy comics?
Yeah.
Attaboy. There you go.
Yeah.
Have you? And I don't know if you had the chance to meet Greg, because Greg doesn't do cons like he used to, obviously.
No, well, I did meet him before I'd really done anything. I just bought something off of him and shook his hand and told him I fucking love his stuff. But he wouldn't remember. I mean, I'm just, you know, one guy in a million. But yeah, he was. I went to a great panel that he did with Brubaker, and somebody else was on that panel too. I think it was just a panel about crime comics with him and Brubaker and a couple others.
Was that in Portland?
No, I've never been to a con. I've never done a con in Portland.
Or no, it wasn't Portland. It was Seattle, Emerald City.
I've never been there either, sadly.
Okay.
It was one of the. Let's see, it would have been either. I'm not sure, honestly.
No worries, because I didn't moderate a panel, but I got their permission to record it, and it's on the Word Balloon feed from an old Emerald City Con, and it was Ed and Greg, and they were talking Gotham Central. And shame on me, I don't remember the instructor's name. Maybe someone in the chat will, but he's a teacher at one of the I believe actually in one of the Oregon universities, and he moderated the panel, and it was great. And truly, as you know, and you even mentioned it earlier, you know, Ed Spy Comics, Greg Spy Comics, you know, they get it. They know what they're doing, you know. And I'll be talking to Ed in a couple of weeks in November about the latest Reckless book. But and you know, Greg has been busy doing those Old Guard movies for Netflix. Right. Was even in Italy most of this year on set, helping, you know, kind of formalize it and stuff. And I've been giving him a break. I felt like I overworked him, especially pre-COVID. And I'm like, hey man, we're still friends. I'm like, I don't want you to, like, you never should feel obligated to come on the show. I want you to, and also I'm like, I just want to see you, man. I just haven't seen him forever. Last time I saw him was before the pandemic 3 years ago at Rose City. So what are you going to do? It was Ben Sanders, Zach. Thank you very much. So yes, thank you, buddy. Ben Saunders. I forget how you say it, but you're absolutely right. It was Ben.
Bill Schmidt is asking. I know we already got into this, but Bill, your question. It's not Action Comics is not going to be an anthology exactly. It's still a lead. There's still a lead story. The way it's been, it's going to be 20 pages, and then instead of one 8-page backup like there's going to be two 10-page backups. So it's just kind of more of a. Yeah, I'm not sure you call it an anthology, but yeah, like one lead story that connect, and all three of those stories are going to connect issue to issue. Like,
okay.
I don't know if they want to announce how many issues, like how long each story is going, but the story with Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks, and the other one with Leah Williams and Margaret Savage, those are all connecting from month to month as well. So it's not like an anthology of shorts or anything. I
understand. Ed knows who we're talking to. I hope there's a gadget musical instrument gag, like the spit valve on the trumpet initiates an electromagnetic pulse. Yeah, you got to work that in, man.
And you were a monster. I would never. It's funny. I did try to figure out a way to work together. Like, there's not really because of the nature of the story and what's happening, there's not really a way that makes sense for Bond to be working with Q on the gadget stuff. So there's still gadget stuff that happens, but it has to come from another source, and that's kind of fun.
That's cool. Tevye wants to know what your favorite aspect of Bond is that you like to write.
I love that how damn cool he is, and how like he just kind of always has the best quippy comeback. It's just really fun. I just love being like, when somebody says something shitty and then you think of the great comeback, like, that night or something. He's just that, like, coming up with those comebacks that are just so sweet, because he's always that guy. He's that guy that has that comeback, while he's killing you.
Yes.
There's this, like, I guess I kind of sum it up, and there's an issue. I think it's issue 2. It's an issue that's out already for sure. He's fighting somebody really awesome, and the guy says something like, "I just love kicking the shit out of guys like you," or something like that to Bond. And then Bond gets the upper hand, and he's about to shoot him. He's like, "Well, you know what they say: find the thing you love and let it kill you."
Hey, Nick is watching.
Hey, Barucci, hey,
and everyone, and thank you, Nick. He says support us. Hit that thumbs up, absolutely. Yeah, man. If you would, that'd be great. If you could support War Balloon either through Patreon or a tip here on YouTube would be great. But he also further says that Phillip is killing it. We're forever grateful that he's doing some of the best Bond we've published. Truly, Nick, as I was saying earlier in the broadcast, all the creators that you've been having do Bond books have just been great. I've had wonderful conversations with Jeff Parker about it and Ibrahim Mustafa, among others. I keep meaning to get Andy Diggle on to talk about his great run as well. And I'm so glad that you and Phillip connected on this, and that he's doing these stories for you. It's pretty great stuff. So
thanks, John. I just hung out with Andy Diggle in the UK. Like, I was in.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I was in Lancaster. I was visiting my friend Alex Pocknadell, staying with him and his family, and Andy and Sean Phillips, actually. And it's like a really great little crew of comics and animation people who all kind of live close. And we all got together, hung out, and just hit a pub that's like, older than America.
Of course.
And just talked about everything and anything. It was awesome.
Isn't that's like the greatest thing about Europe, that literally you can go into a bar and it's like 500 years old or whatever, and Ireland, the Netherlands, obviously right. England. No, I love it.
When I was in London, I stayed in Whitechapel.
Wow.
Because I'm a Ripper guy. Like, I know a lot about not as much as I'd like to know, but I know a fair bit about the Ripper stuff.
Sure.
And there's a museum there, like a Ripper museum, and I went. And it was cool, but it was a little smaller than I expected, and not quite as well stocked with stuff. Like, it was all stuff that I knew already. But it was cool. I mean, I'm glad I went. But when I was like, I still have a few hours before I leave, and I haven't seen. I spent most of my time there seeing friends. I was like, I haven't hit any of these actual places from the killings, from the whole mythology. And so I just kind of walked down the street and saw, like, all the different addresses where they found these people. I got a drink at the 10 Bells, that pub where Jack the Ripper stalked his victims and all that, and kind of poured one out for the unfortunate women.
Wow.
But it was just, I don't know, a really interesting part of, like, just, all these places that you see in the From Hell book, and these things from the old newspaper clippings and all that.
Any homes? Did you get to 221B Baker Street at all, or anything?
No, I did not get down to Baker Street. I should have.
All right.
No, I'll have to get back. I'm committed to going back there next year again. I love it there. Not just London, but like Scotland too. Like, it's just, UK is awesome.
Oh my God, absolutely, man. No, a couple Irish guys that put on one of the Irish conventions pre-COVID are like, "Hey, we'd love to have you." I'm like, I would love to go. I would love to, and guys like Deck Shelby and stuff. I would love to see Ireland, and eventually get to London and Scotland and stuff. I mean, no, the UK is incredible.
Yeah.
And hell, I really would love to get down to Australia, down under, and everything, and then see Oz. And hang with Tom. I only get to see Tom Taylor whenever he's. I don't know was he in New York?
No, he wasn't. He was in San Diego, and I couldn't go.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I like the only times I get to see Tom and Nicholas Scott are when they go to San Diego and stuff. And it's like, oh, thank God, man, I miss you guys.
I know, exactly.
They're fantastic, and yeah, especially again, Tom's another guy I'm so glad that he broke through with DC. I mean, I was loving his Dark Horse stuff and other things he was doing well before he hooked up with DC. And he's kicking ass, and I'm like, yay,
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
totally.
Tom's
No,
great.
Tom is awesome. He's
So,
got so much work too.
well, and the same goes for you, and the same goes for Williamson. I'm glad you guys are getting your chances at bat and playing with the big toys and doing great stories, man. You guys deserve it again.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
100%, man. I listen. I know it's like getting late your time. I don't want to keep you up. I do you have any other conventions that are set, if not in 2022, but early 2023, or is the Army
I'm
busy?
doing Baltimore Con this weekend.
Oh, this weekend.
That's
okay.
it's my home con. I'm doing that one.
Of course.
And then that's it for the year. I'm about to, my Army unit's about to go on tour real quick, but next year I don't have anything set in stone for next year. It all kind of depends on the Army schedule, but
sure.
I would love to do C2E2, and I think it's probably more likely than it's been.
Great, man.
I'm working with Scott's Collectibles, a company that does people that kind of table together and do exclusive signings and stuff like that. And I know they're kind of putting together their schedule. So that one, most likely, they do Fan Expo a lot. I'm sure I'll be doing San Diego and New York, whichever one will work out my schedule, but I'd love to do both.
That's great.
Heroes Con if I can. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
We covered this earlier, but Radium was wondering, and actually we're talking in theory, are there definite plans of a War World hardcover omnibus sort of thing?
I don't know about the format. That's not in my lane, actually. That's up to them, like how to sell it and what format to put it out in. I'm confident they'll put out a collection. I have no idea what it'll look like.
Well, Radium wants us to come down to Australia. I would love that, man.
Hey, dude, let's do it.
That honestly, every country, including our own, when people go to creators and say, "Hey, I heard you on Word Balloon," especially early on, the amount of Aussies that were listening to Word Balloon and go like Slot and Gail Simone and so many American creators would be like, "Dude, they listen to you in Australia," and I'm like,
"That's awesome. That's so cool to hear that."
So that means a lot. That really, honestly, anyone that's watching right now or listening from down under, and you were very sweet in terms of the people that do correspond with me via email or private messages on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you, because it does. It's like I love telling my Chicago radio friends. It's like, yeah, that's nice. You get your little Chicago radio station, and I know it's the number 3 market in Chicago. They're listening to me in Australia. What do you think of that? How about that?
Exactly.
How about them apples? So. All right, let's see. Oh, all right. Good question from Forrest. Any chance that the military band tour would take you to Central Florida?
Why, yes. We're going to be down that way in the spring.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. This tour that we're about to do is going to go through the upper Midwest, I believe. We're going through, let's see, Ohio, Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota. I'm not sure where else exactly. I need to check out the schedule, see exactly where.
I know you were with the band and you guys were addressing school bands and stuff in December when you were in town, but Chicago's not part of the tour.
It is. I was going to hit you up about it when the show was over, but yes.
Oh, dude! I really want to see you perform.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing, and I'm going to be playing in Symphony Hall.
Wow! Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah, you got to come out. There's
100%, my God, yes, of course I will.
The author Dan Brown has written this. He wrote this kids book and like a symphony that goes with it. And we're doing like this big kids concert thing in Symphony Hall with Dan Brown's piece, Wild Symphony, it's called, and then another half program with a bunch of our other stuff. So dude, yeah,
that's amazing. A couple years ago. Jesus, now it's been about 5 or 7 years ago, at the University of Chicago, Art Spiegelman came in.
Oh my God.
And he had this small combo, and they played music and they showed these silent graphic novels from as late as the 1890s and as modern as the 1950s. And they created original music to accompany the images we saw. And that was the presentation. It's ironic that we're talking about Australia because he's only done it in New York, Chicago, Seattle, and in Sydney. Those are the only 4 places he's done it. And every time I talk to Art, which isn't very often, I'm like, dude, are you going to ever do that again? He goes, I certainly hope so. You know how these tours are and everything, and what kind of money, and especially to afford to have a band travel and stuff. Thank God the Army is doing it for you guys and stuff. But oh God, yeah, that's so great. Oh, I'm so glad, Philip. Absolutely, of course, I want to see you play. I've always wanted to see you play. That's great, dude. You're such a renaissance man. Good Lord.
I don't know. Thanks. I mean, we might be playing Superman March on that show too. I hope we are. I know we're playing Superman March on that tour. I don't know if it's going to be in that hall or not, but we did this thing last year with this great composer named Julie Giroux, who wrote a piece. Oh my God, what's it called? Fields of Gold. And she's a huge comics nerd. And she wrote that piece about Superman.
Wow.
And there's like the different, not movements exactly, because it's all kind of one through composed thing, but the different sections of the piece are named after different parts of Superman's mythology. And we set it to art from my run. I selected a bunch of art from my own run, and we did this big video. Like we told this story, basically the story of Superman Worlds of War with Sadie and the kind of the search for Superman after he's gone, and the different stories about what he means to us and everything. We kind of told that story visually as Fields of Gold played, as we played it live. It was just so effective and so cool. I mean, the band just sounded fucking awesome, and the art's incredible. Like art by people like Miguel and Mikel Hanin and Daniel Sampere, and some of the covers that J. Totino Tedesco did. I mean, it was just so effective. It was such a huge honor.
That sounds great, man. First, I want to. Riley says, just joined after finishing schoolwork. Wanted to check in. Philip, loved your run on Action Comics so much. It's a book that affects me every day. Helps me have hope for the future. Thanks so much. And all right. Oh, Forrest wants to know the name of that composer again.
Her name is Julie Giroux. Giroux is spelled Giraux. Let's see. She wrote this great. Let's see. She's done a lot of film, TV stuff. She's won like awards. I want to say Emmys. I mean, she's really amazing. But yeah, this piece is called Fields of Gold. She did a thing about Gotham too. I can't remember what the name of it is. I think the word Gotham is in the title. But I know most of the recordings that are out there of Fields of Gold are live, very often by like school bands and stuff. I don't know if there's ever been like a studio recording of it, but I'm sure you could find it on, like, even if it's not like a super polished recording, I'm sure you could find a recording of it online.
That's cool. Radium also wanted to say Superman's stand-up and fight line against Mongol was the most epic Superman has been in a long time, as I've been reading him. Even more impactful as powerless Superman. Oh,
thank you. Yeah, man. There's I kind of have these checklist of things I try to get into every Superman issue. Like some kind of a line, like a single line from Superman that kind of sums up who he is. I want one of those moments that gives you those like kind of chills, like I just want to be like you. And most recently, and I kind of take that inspiration from Chris Reeves' take. And I know that people will say, "Oh, my version's better than yours," and all that. I'm not interested in that. Like, there's so many great iterations of Superman on film and screen, but for me, it's those moments, like when Christopher Reeves saves the people from the chopper or the plane, whatever it was, and he says, "I hope this hasn't put you off flying. Statistically speaking, it's still the safest way to travel." There's a thing in 1047 that just recently came out where he does all the spectacle stuff. Like he stops the crazy hovercraft, and then he something blows up in a family car falls off the bridge, and he flies through the air and saves it. Everyone, but then he opens the door and checks on the kids in the back, and he's like, "Everybody okay back here?" And the kid tries to give him his toy, and he says, "That's okay, son. Flash Dog will miss you. You keep him. But there's one thing you can do for me, though. Keep wearing your seatbelt, just like you did today."
Oh, nice.
It saved you as much as anything I did. And just that idea of Superman saying, like, just cautioning them to wear the seatbelt and to credit the seatbelt with the save and not himself, just kind of sums up how we should all be.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, it's something that it's like my statement on who we should all strive to be. And I try to put some kind of a line in each issue like that, like the stand up and fight thing. Or Superman has this in the end of War World Apocalypse. He has this basically magical knife that has like a piece of a god in it. And if he just takes it into himself, he'll be more powerful than he's ever been. And he's dying. If he doesn't use it, he's going to die. But this kid's dead, and he uses it to save the kid's life, knowing that he will die instead. And Mongol is just like gobsmacked. He's like,
yeah, who is this guy?
What the hell are you doing? You won. You beat me. You had it. And like, you're going to give it away for some stupid kid? This means nothing. He's like a stupid slave. Like, what is wrong with you? And Superman says, this is why you could never have won. Stand up and fight. And that's that moment. Like, you've got to have these moments where you see this is what the story is really about. It's not about the explosions. It's not about the big clashes of the one-offs. It's all about these moments where you have the opportunity to live forever, to have ultimate power forever, and you blow it all to save a small child's life, knowing that you will die as a result. And that's what we should all do.
Have you This American Life did a great episode about superheroes, and there was a really great, and it was well narrated story that, as much as I appreciated the story, I'm like, that's not Superman. And it's from a villain's point of view. And the villain sees Superman come face to face with some sort of immortal being. And he basically gives them the choice of something like you can sacrifice yourself. I'm sure I'm getting this part wrong. Or you could be known and continue and be the hero or whatever. And he chooses hero. And the villain is just cackling and saying, you could have been a real hero, but you chose the easy way because you need to be a hero, in this very self-aggrandizing way that he is, kind of imprinting on Superman. And I'm like, really fun story. That's not Superman. Superman would do exactly what you suggest. And it's the virtue. And that's why I'm always like, and I'm so glad that they're finally doing Black Label stories with Superman. It's like Superman is Sir Galahad in a very ugly and mean world, but he is the shining light that it's like, it doesn't have to be this way if everyone would just calm down, or I will provide the example to show that it doesn't have to be this way. So yeah, man, this is why.
Yeah, exactly. He's not the morality police. He doesn't feel the need to control us, but instead he looks after himself. He shows us how to be. He gives us the example instead.
I know this answer. Stanley wants to know, do you like creating original characters? Of course you do.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Of course you do.
I mean, I know that Superman fans, like a lot of Superman fans, have this kind of era of that they all grew up in. And that's like, they have a lot of nostalgia for whatever that era is.
Sure.
Whether it be Triangle Era or New 52 or Golden Age, Silver Age, whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their version that they love. And this next thing that's about to kick off with Action 1050. 1050 is a big landmark issue that really matters. And the arc that comes right after that, it sets up all three series. Like, it sets up Action 1051 and onward. It sets up Superman #1. It sets up Adventures of Superman #1. All that grows out of Action 1050. And we are trying to recapture all that love that everyone feels for Superman starting right then. Like the Triangle Era, like the way that all the series belong together, like the bright, shining metropolis that we're trying to show, not like Jetsons crazy future stuff, but definitely the most advanced, enlightened version of what we can be, as curated by the super family. We're trying to give everyone, it's all about fan service for a while. We're going to give everyone the Superman stories that they want.
Riley has a great question, and we probably should have touched on this. And essentially, you were describing this, but Lois and Clark taking in Otho and Osul, is that meant to mirror how Ma and Pa took in a child from far, far away that they gained nothing from?
Yeah.
Sure. And speaking of Ma and Pa, will we see Ma and Pa in the new family dynamic? Well, Jonathan's dead, right? Or is Jonathan alive again? I forget.
These days in the comics, they are both around.
Good.
Yeah.
They need to be. Listen, again, Jeff had his moment where he killed Pa again. And I get that, and I appreciate the tragedy. Good Lord, in the Donner movie, when Glenn Ford just grabs his wrist and he's like, "Oh no!" and he knows he's dying. It's like, oh man, that is the best 5 minutes or the whole movie. Let's say 10 or 15 minutes of Jonathan Kent that's ever been filmed. I mean, I liked what's his face from Dukes of Hazzard. He was a fine John Kent in Smallville, and I love Kevin Costner. Again, that's not the Jonathan Kent I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm a little touchy busting open that can of worms right now, but I've made my opinion known many times online and in person. Regarding, I mean, he did a great job. But yeah, let's just leave. I'm not, tons of people, Man of Steel is like their Superman.
Totally.
And I think that I legit think that's awesome. There's a lot about that movie that, to love.
Oh no, and you were absolutely right about that as well. But it's one of the things I loved about the old Lois and Clark show, Terry Hatcher and what's his face, back in the 90s. And that was the great thing that Byrne kind of brought to his run of Superman. It's like, no, man, again, we need civilians in the DC universe that can look at these gods and say, I mean, that's what Alfred was always there for. That's what the Kents were always there for. And especially when Clark was so alone, that it was really important for him to have his mother and father there. Now that he does have this big family, that's even better, and more life lessons for Jonathan to give to Clark to communicate with John, and now these kids as well. I mean, those are great story opportunities, again, that I'm glad that the Kents are. And I forgot, someone said it was in Doomsday Clock that they brought it all back. So that's cool. Lewis hopes that someday a Warworld movie or animated adaptation happens. That would be great.
Yeah,
it's a big story. Cool. Yeah, man. So, good Lord.
There's a Justice League Warworld story coming out soon, or I guess it's next year. I'm curious of like what, if anything, they take from Warworld Saga.
Thank you, Zach. Zach's also putting the plea on to help me out with Patreon.
Yeah,
hey, totally. Truly, everybody. Yeah, thank you for the support, the people that do it. And it would be greatly appreciated. I'm trying to keep the lights on here in Chicago, despite my being in darkness right now. So regardless, Philip. Again, I don't want to monopolize your time. If you want to wrap up, we can wrap up.
I guess there's a book I got to get back to writing.
Exactly. No. Well, and also
I don't want to bore the fans. You want to do a couple more questions and then wrap it up?
Let's see. Will Connor's round robin miniseries have any impact on your plans for him, or vice versa?
I think that's the Kenny. That's Kenny's book that they asked about earlier. I think.
Okay.
Kenny's book is kind of its own thing, but we'll definitely be aware of like what's going on in the other story.
Zach wants me to tease some interviews. Well, tomorrow I'm going to talk to Jackson Lansing, who has been doing a great job at IDW on Star Trek books, and he's got a brand new Star Trek book that actually debuts Wednesday. And Ben Sisko is the captain. He's got Beverly Crusher and Data on his team. They're doing some sort of covert Starfleet mission. Tom Paris is part of the team. And I've read the first issue. It's amazing. And I've loved Jackson has done original series stories that explore the 5th year of the 5-year Kirk mission and Spock. Really great writer. And then Wednesday, my buddy Art Baltazar is going to join me to talk about his creator-owned books. And I was going to ask Philip earlier, Art and Franco were at New York, and I don't know if you've ever met them. They were in Baltimore.
They're lovely.
Year. Okay, sometime it would be great to get you and Artie on the same show and talk Superman, and so we just bullshit.
That would be dope. I've gotten all those guys like Super Family Adventures, like the little kid stuff that they did, and I've read all that with my son, and it's awesome. It's beautiful. And yeah, see. Art, I believe, is one of those guys. I think Art was the one who spoke to me, but he knew, he knew I was. We talked a little bit, and he said something like, you're writing Action Comics. Like this is really important. Like what you're writing now really matters. And he was just so kind.
He loves Superman, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, it really comes through. And I thought that was awesome. It really, when you find somebody like that that really loves Superman, it just kind of shows. And Art's great. Both those guys are great.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that you guys, I'm always happy when my friends who don't necessarily know each other get to finally meet and get to know each other and stuff. So,
there's a couple of questions here I wanted to specifically deal with, and then I should probably go.
Let's do it. Feel free. You cherry
Dennis
pick.
Hoffman asks, any news on new creator-owned series? Love Last God.
I was going to ask you that as well.
God. Thank you for reading Last God. If anyone's interested in Last God, it's been re-released now as the Fellspire Chronicles Book 1. That was the subtitle before. Now that's the main title. Yeah, I'm not supposed to talk about it, but basically it is a story. If you notice, there's not a lot of stories out there that really deal with COVID at all. And it's like people are they just kind of don't want to think about it, right? Like,
kind of burnt out from the experience.
Yeah, totally. And I get that. But there is a story that I want to tell that kind of grew out of COVID. The way that people were kind of leaving stuff behind, like kind of grabbed onto COVID as the era of COVID as their opportunity to kind of move forward and just say, screw it, I'm out. And just give up what they were doing before that they hated and do something new. And I kind of have this take that I wanted to do, like that kind of grew out of that whole idea. All these people who just said, screw it, and went on in a different direction with their lives. And that concept, along with the, with stories like Breaking Bad and Nightcrawler and various things kind of came together to make this really cool story that I just cannot wait to make. So look for that. There's going to be a really cool creator-owned story pretty soon, like next year.
Excellent. Well, obviously the rebranding of Last God suggests that there is more to the story. So that's great to hear.
Oh, as far as Last God, yes. Like there's more to tell, and I hope we get it. I mean, right now they're kind of keeping Ricardo Ferici and I hopping. Ricardo and me, rather. We're kind of keeping us busy on other stuff, but we both want to do more, and I'd love to do more. So I think we're going to do more at some point.
Tevye wants to know if you do a crossover with Superman and Last God, how would you do it? Would you want to do a crossover?
That wouldn't really make sense to me.
No, I don't think so either, buddy.
There's not really a place for those characters in each other's worlds. This is it's just, you're two different languages.
I'm with you, buddy.
But one last thing, Marcus Reyes asked, any chance of a new Nightwing and Flamebird? And someone else said,
yes.
Someone else asked if Otho and Osa will have code names.
Right.
So there's kind of one thing, I can't spoil too much of that stuff, but there is one, since you guys asked, I will say that we did a little bit of backstory that may or may not make it onto the page, but I wanted to talk about it here because in my headcanon it exists. The houses of Krypton, like, the elves and the Zods and everyone else, they have their house sigil that you see, like the S shield and Zod's version of that and all the others. And each house also has a house tale, like a house myth that goes with each house. That's to my knowledge, that's not pre-existing. That's something that I came up with for my lore. And the Philosians all they all relinquished their house trappings when they joined the group when they became Philosians. Basically, they kind of renounced their sigil and their story and all that stuff, so they lost all that. But when they came to Earth, when the twins come to Earth, the Kents and Kara and all that do all this research trying to find the they belong to the House of Ra, and these guys do some digging and find their house story and bequeath it to them. So whether or not they end up taking the names of those characters in that story, they do have a house story and a house sigil and all that, and now they know what it is. They're wearing Superman's sigil because they feel his kinship with him. They're like, he's like their adopted dad now, basically. That's how they see it. But they may eventually wear their own sigil, and the character like Nightwing and Flamebird is one of those house myths.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
And there's going to be another. It's not theirs. Like they will not take the names Nightwing and Flamebird, at least not under my watch, because they have their own house story with their own characters. And they would, if they did take names, that would be the name. They would be the names of those characters from that story.
Excellent, man. Well, Zach likes what you're saying, so that's great. And yeah, man, no, I hear you. Well, Riley says, thanks for the great interview, Philip. Looking forward to the next issues of Actions. From Riley's mouth to mine, I absolutely agree. Congratulations, bud. I'm so happy for you. You're a great writer. Everything that's happening, well-deserved. Can't wait to see the next volume of Alien, and also, of course, the what's going on, which is underway at Marvel, and also at Dynamite. Great stuff with 007, man.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. I talk you up all the time. Talk up this show. Thanks for having me back on.
Oh, please. Good Lord, son. Like, you're one of those guys that's like, if you wanted to come on every month, of course, please.
Oh,
That would be
thanks,
wonderful.
brother. And thanks, everyone, for watching. I appreciate you guys logging in.
Absolutely. Everybody, thanks for watching. More Word Balloon tomorrow night with Jackson Langzig. I hope you will check out our Star Trek conversation. And until then, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.